What if I told you that right now, as you're watching this, there is a second brain operating inside your body? One that makes decisions without asking your conscious mind for permission, one that feels emotions before your head does, and one that scientists have been quietly studying for over 30 years while the rest of the world had absolutely no idea? This isn't science fiction. This isn't a conspiracy theory. This is one of the most unsettling and fascinating discoveries in the history of modern medicine, and the fact that most people have never heard about it should make you very uncomfortable. Your gut contains over 500 million neurons. Let that sink in for a second. 500 million nerve cells, woven into the lining of your digestive system, forming a complex self-operating neural network that researchers have officially named the enteric nervous system. But scientists who have spent their careers studying it don't call it that in casual conversation. They call it the second brain. And the more they learn about it, the more disturbing and extraordinary that nickname becomes. For most of medical history, the gut was dismissed as a glorified tube, a processing machine, something that digested food, absorbed nutrients, and moved waste along. Doctors understood it as a passive system, something controlled entirely by the brain in your skull, sending instructions downward through the nervous system. That assumption went unchallenged for centuries, and it was completely wrong. The man who changed everything was neuroscientist Michael Gershon at Columbia University. Back in the 1990s, Gershon began publishing research that made his colleagues deeply skeptical. He was claiming that the gut wasn't just receiving orders from the brain, it was running its own independent operation. The enteric nervous system, he argued, could sense, process information, and react entirely on its own. When he published his landmark book on the subject in 1998, the scientific community didn't know whether to be fascinated or alarmed. Many were both. Here is what makes this truly unsettling. The enteric nervous system communicates with your brain through the vagus nerve, one of the longest and most mysterious nerves in the human body. And when scientists started studying the signals traveling along that nerve, they discovered something that flipped their understanding of human consciousness upside down. 90% of the signals traveling through the vagus nerve are going upward, from the gut to the brain, not the other way around. Your second brain is not waiting for instructions, it is giving them. Think about what that actually means. When you feel a knot in your stomach before something terrible happens, that is not a poetic metaphor. Your gut is detecting something, processing it, and sending that emotional signal up to your conscious brain before your rational mind has even registered the situation. The phrase gut feeling is not a figure of speech. It is a neurological event happening in a brain you didn't know you had. The enteric nervous system produces neurotransmitters that you almost certainly associate exclusively with your head. Serotonin, the chemical most people think of in the context of mood and depression, approximately 95% of your body's entire serotonin supply is manufactured in the gut, not in your brain, in your gut. Dopamine, the chemical tied to motivation, reward, and pleasure, about 50% of it is produced in the digestive system. The second brain is not just processing food, it is manufacturing the chemicals that control how you feel, how motivated you are, whether you feel joy or despair. And now scientists are asking a question that is keeping them up at night. If your gut is making these chemicals, if it has its own neural network, if it is sending more signals to your brain than it receives, then how much of what you believe is a conscious thought or emotion is actually originating somewhere else entirely? The research goes even darker from there. Scientists have discovered that the gut contains its own independent reflex system. If you were to surgically sever the vagus nerve, the main communication highway between your gut and your skull, your enteric nervous system would continue to function. It would keep moving food through your digestive tract. It would keep producing neurotransmitters. It would keep operating with the same silent, automated efficiency as a machine that has no need for a supervisor. The second brain doesn't need the first brain to survive. The reverse is not true. Researchers studying neurological diseases have started finding evidence that certain conditions may actually originate in the gut before they ever reach the head. Studies on Parkinson's disease have suggested that the toxic protein clusters associated with the condition may appear in the enteric nervous system years, sometimes decades, before any symptoms show up in the brain. The disease may be starting in the gut and traveling upward. If that's confirmed, it will rewrite everything we thought we knew about some of the most devastating neurological conditions on the planet. The connection between gut health and mental health is no longer considered fringe science. It is now one of the fastest-growing areas of psychiatric research in the world. The gut microbiome, the trillions of bacteria, fungi, and microorganisms living in your digestive tract, communicates directly with your enteric nervous system. And that microbial community influences the production of the very chemicals that regulate your mood, your anxiety levels, your stress responses, your cognitive clarity. When your gut bacteria are disrupted, the signals change. Studies in mice have shown that when you transplant gut bacteria from an anxious mouse into a calm one, the calm mouse begins to display anxious behavior. The bacteria in your gut may be influencing your personality in ways that your conscious mind has no access to and no control over. Consider the implications of that for a moment. The decisions you make, the fears you carry, the moods that descend on you without explanation. How much of that is really you thinking, and how much of it is a network of neurons and microorganisms in your digestive system sending up chemical signals that your brain then interprets as thought and feeling? Scientists don't have a complete answer to that question yet, but 30 years of research is pointing in a direction that should make every one of us deeply curious about what consciousness actually is and where it actually lives. There is an evolutionary reason this system exists, and it is ancient. Long before complex brains developed in vertebrates, simple organisms were navigating the world using primitive neural networks that were largely gut-based. The enteric nervous system is one of the oldest parts of the nervous system in evolutionary terms. It predates the brain in your skull by hundreds of millions of years. In a very real sense, you didn't develop a gut brain to support your head brain. You developed a head brain to supplement something that already existed. The second brain came first. What is being studied now is how to use this knowledge to treat disease, to manage mental health conditions, to understand addiction, trauma, and anxiety in ways that purely brain-focused medicine has consistently failed to address. Researchers are exploring whether modifying the gut microbiome through diet, probiotics, and targeted bacterial transplants can meaningfully treat depression, anxiety disorders, and even conditions on the autism spectrum. Early results are cautiously fascinating. Some are more than cautious. Some are extraordinary. But perhaps the most haunting part of all of this is how long it was ignored. 30 years of research. 30 years of a small community of scientists trying to explain to a skeptical world that the body they thought they understood contains an entire second nervous system that operates by its own rules, produces its own chemicals, makes its own decisions, and has been doing so since before you were born. The gut brain was always there, humming in the background, quietly running a parallel operation in the dark. We just weren't paying attention. And now the question isn't whether the second brain exists. That science is settled. The question is, what else is happening inside your body right now that we haven't discovered yet? What other systems are operating in the background? What other intelligence is running beneath the surface of what we believe we are? Scientists have been studying your second brain for 30 years, and they still say they are only beginning to understand it. That alone should tell you everything about how vast and strange and deeply mysterious the human body really is. If this kind of science makes your brain, whichever one, want to know more, then you are exactly where you're supposed to be. Mind Atlas exists to take the most extraordinary and unsettling discoveries in science and bring them to you in a way that actually makes you feel something. Subscribe right now, hit the bell so you never miss what we uncover next, and stay curious. The strangest discoveries are always the ones hiding in plain sight.